Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and today we have a bit of a little candid video. Now normally I like to find something interesting on the internet and kind of show it to you and have a good old time. Now I make a wide different variety of things. I talk about things like Linux, I talk about, crazy stuff like those Epstein files for instance. I talk about, cool stuff like artificial intelligence and how to run it completely locally. But some days you wake up and it's like, what the fuck is going on? Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you guys, but there's been some really crazy shit being said. This morning I saw the old president go, a whole civilization will die tonight. Now, of course, obviously my eyes perk up a little bit, but that's not even like the wildest thing today. What's really wild is like apparently there's like representatives who are saying aliens have made contact with humans, backed by the government briefings. In a normal fucking world, I'm gonna be completely real with you, that shit would be all over the front page. You'd be hearing some guy outside your house going, extra, extra, read all about it. Aliens finally admitted to by the government. Now, I can't even really take this seriously because, to be honest with you, I think everything that the government throws now is basically a distraction from some of the most wild human trafficking files we've ever seen. Now, I don't know, the catalyst for today's video is just a little bit of like doom and gloom and a bit of dread that I have. Now, for the last couple of years, I made videos talking about like one of the biggest anxieties of mine, and that's like nuclear warfare. I really think that it's kind of a blessing every day humanity doesn't die. Like, if you fucking think about it, the fact that we live every day and an asteroid hasn't hit us and ended our little tiny lifespan, and by the way, I mean the human lifespan, we are a very tiny speck of piss in a very tiny puddle of piss in the vast universe. We are effectively one of the smallest things you could ever make. We're basically just like a fucking fruit fly landing in your house. We matter that little in the grand scheme of actual things. But I enjoy my little tiny life with my friends and my family. So the other day, actually, not the other day, this morning, I wake up and the old president's going, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. Now I kind of read this and I think, whoa, what are we gonna fucking nuke someone? Jesus Christ. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. Oh shit. God. Now a lot of people say that this is this man's bargaining power, like, this is how he like gambles. This is just jokes. And normally I could stand jokes, you know what I mean? Like normally I'd be fine with it. In Canada and Toronto we had a mayor called Rob Ford. Motherfucker loved crack. And you know what? I'm not even gonna be mad about it because he was the mayor of a city. When you're the mayor, doing a little bit of crack is fine. But when you're the motherfucking president of the United States, I think it's time to put the old pipe down there, pal. However, now that we have complete and total regime change, where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail. Now, this is all referencing a war that's going on in Iran. For anybody that doesn't know, a super tiny country in the Middle East that has a lot of power in the rest of the world decided to basically convince the biggest country in the world to launch an all-out attack, okay? Maybe something revolutionarily wonderful can happen. Who knows? I would imagine the president would fucking know, right? Like, I would imagine the most powerful motherfucker running in the world would know. We'll find out tonight. One of the most important moments in the long and complex history of the world. 47 years of extortion, corruption, and death will finally end. God bless the great people of Iran. Now, normally I really don't care about talking about the whole politics and geopolitics stuff about it because I'm not a fucking expert, okay? I'm a fat Indian guy on the internet. But at some point you start to realize that the other two people talking about it are like a dog shocker, and then somebody that hasn't fucking cleaned up their house for the last like 15 fucking years, okay? At some point you need to kind of find a middle ground of an opinion between that and just have an honest to God actual discussion and talk about this situation. Now, look, I'm not somebody that likes to be doom and gloom and scared about this. But, I've talked about crazy shit like this in the past. I've talked about things like, North Korea keeps testing its bombs and shit when crazy stuff gets tested around. One of the sites that I bring up all the time is like Nuke Map. Now, I love Nuke Map for all of the wrong reasons because it does feed into my morbid curiosity of what could happen if nukes go off. Now, I'm not saying that tonight at 8 o'clock, apparently, that the nuclear weapons are dropping. It's crazy to think that these kind of statements are made. It's almost like, somebody say, hey guys, you'll find out on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z what's gonna happen with the fucking world. You start to look at maps like this and you think, all right, that's Tehran, one of the largest cities in all of Iran. You run the W-53, which is claimed to be the highest kiloton ICBM the U.S. government has ever deployed. You drop that shit right here, and basically, just to give you an idea, the orange radius, right here. Basically, if you're sitting on this street and the bomb drops right here, that is the quickest, cleanest death. You won't even fucking process it, okay? I can't spoil this. I can't spoil The Sopranos. Okay, I was about to drop a hard Sopranos thing in there, but I'm just not gonna do it. Anyways, then you got the moderate blast damage radius, and the reality of it is you're probably still cooked here. Then you've got the thermal radiation radius, so it's kind of like a battle royale. It just goes out and fucking inverse like a big ball of fire. It's like when in the Fallout games when you like see the little fucking character do one of these, like he points out the thumb. Yeah, basically, I think the rule is it's like if the mushroom cloud is bigger than your thumb, you got cancer, bitch, or you're dead, or you're radiated as fuck. And then of course you've got the light blast radius, and basically if you're living in like Damavon Peaks, right around here, you basically see an insane fireworks show. But remember, humanity has made so many bombs that you could drop one here. Here. You might even be able to go 2 for 1 in certain locations, okay? Fuck it. Now, of course, I always like looking at the nuclear, launch commands. I always like looking at it, and the reality of it is that if we're to take a Google AI overview seriously, which you never should, the reality of it is that, unfortunately, bombs rest on the sole authority of the president. And there are ways that apparently the other military officers can go, I don't know about this one, Chief. Seems like a pretty bad idea. I don't know if I want to agree with this one specifically. But again, even amongst people, that's apparently debated, which is shocking whenever I hear this kind of crap. Actually, let's read exactly what the overview tried grabbing from the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. Senior military and civilian officials, such as the Secretary of Defense, may or may not be consulted. However, they have no formal role in authorizing or confirming an order to employ nuclear weapons, nor are they well positioned or equipped to improvise extra-legal measures that might thwart an arbitrary, capricious, or misguided launch directive. Yeah, we're sitting in one of those situations, fellas. One of the things that always fed my anxiety was this shit. You ever watch EAS scenarios? I've talked about it for years. But basically, the reality of it is that there's a lot of people on the internet that don't just do analog and digital horror. They basically create emergency alert scenarios. So, for instance, when your TV gets taken over, it's like, alert, alert, ballistic missile headed your way. Sometimes there's been cases in reality where systems have gone off, actual systems, without people realizing. And it's like, oh my God, ballistic missile headed my way. It happened back in Hawaii. So you got a bunch of Hawaiians who look at their phone and they're like, well, honey, let's just hold hands the last 5 minutes of our life, because that's really all it takes for these missiles to go from one fucking side of the world to the other. We humans have come up with so many amazing ways, brilliantly engineered ways to kill our entire civilization in nothing but minutes. When you look at things like the Fermi paradox, like the space paradox, which is hey, the universe is so big and we're life, why haven't we seen other life? Has life magically found a way to die? I think there's a theory where once a civilization discovers nuclear weapons, it's basically the fucking end of civilization. Now again, I don't think that nukes will probably drop tonight. Again, it's 8 o'clock, and a lot of this could literally just be hot air. I mean, this is the president trying to divert from the Epstein files, as always. But the reality of it is I don't understand why it's totally normalized that this is even happening. Now, look, I'm a Canadian guy. I'm a Canadian person, but the reality of it is my better half is an American for several generations, okay? Probably since this nation was fucking founded. And by extension, that means, my kiddos are fucking very American in that regard. And that's why I've been kind of talking about this more and more, because I do tend to have a duty of care for at least the future of the world. And you know, the problem with a lot of this stuff too is like it's easy to like step away. Like years ago I would never probably just get this deep into the weeds and talk about this kind of stuff. But the thing is, you know, it used to be that presidents would change, world leaders would change, and you'd really only hear about this kind of shit every so often in like a passing news thing. But now it's like you just see it actually around you. Like, I'm not even joking. I talk about like gas prices and everything. And the reality of it is like, you know, I'm blessed, thank God, that I can at least afford the gas, like to fill my tank. I'm not trying to like, you know, pretend that I'm at the same level as somebody that's, you know, working, you know, fucking, you know, working paycheck to paycheck. But the reality is you do see the $1.90 a liter, the $2 a liter, and it's expensive everywhere. And then because of that, everything ends up becoming more expensive. You know, somebody that likes gaming and computer stuff, you know, seeing the AI bros come in and price the fuck out of all the gamers. So like basically the next time we want to go buy a new gaming console, shit's gonna be over $1,000. When you want to actually upgrade your computer and put in like, you know, 8 gigs of RAM, you're like, shit, do I have to pull out the second mortgage out of the fucking home or something? Do I have to refinance some shit? I don't know, honey. We're gonna have to think. It makes it almost impossible to get your head out of the sand. And I don't think people should be sitting here with their heads stuck in the sand. I think listen, I don't want to make these videos like a normal thing, like, oh, let's just fucking let's just doom about the next thing. But I think at some point it's fair to have like a once in a while video where you kind of look at the situation as it is. And at some point, for me, I look at this as sort of like a coping mechanism. And I think for a lot of people who will end up watching this, there will be a lot of people that are like, yeah, I feel the fucking same way. And it makes me wonder, like, what is even happening in the US? Or it's like, you know, you wake up to your own leader going, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back. And you think to yourself, how is that even fucking normal? You know what I mean? And it isn't even about like, oh, I just don't like that Trump fellow. No, I don't. I've always said I don't really fucking care for any politician. Okay, they're always cheats and assholes in every regard. But at least when you wake up in the morning, you don't want to be like fucking looking at your phone, or at least you don't want to be like firing up the television before you actually go about your day, or you don't want to like look through the paper, you know, for anybody that still gets the paper delivered to them, and read the words. It's like, oh shit, extra, extra. The world might be losing one country, one civilization at 8 o'clock tonight. Makes you fucking wonder, man, what's actually going on. And the reality of it is, what's the only like grace about it? I guess the only thing anybody can do is probably try to like legally find a way to stop this or impeach or do whatever the fuck it is. And the thing about it is, it's like, it makes me wonder like what the end goal for a president like that is, where like even the most ardent supporters that I talk to, and it's funny, like I do talk to people that are ardent supporters of this guy, you know, people that I play certain video games online with. And even they're like, I don't know what the fuck he's doing, man. I don't know what's going on. Shit's fucked up these days. But I think honestly, like, and it's something that I say too, it's like, no matter what you look at in life, things do always tend to get really bad before they actually get better. And it's sort of a simple, like, it's sort of something you can apply to every aspect of your life too, right? At some point, things go down to the point where you almost lose all faith, and you almost like, you're almost just at like this crisis point. And then, you know, because everything is so low, I guess people then suddenly start to wake up, maybe start to actually work together, and things do somewhat turn around. But damn, dog, shit is weird today, okay? You got aspects of the government saying that fucking Alamaus have existed and we talk to them. And it's overshadowed by the fact the guys dropped the fucking potential nuke timeline on this end. And then, of course, we have to live in between the internet becoming a much more restricted pile of shit with the age verifications. We have to live in a world where, shit, I'm just trying to play a fucking video game. and shit's getting expensive everywhere, man. Like, goddamn. What the fuck? You know, regardless of how the world sort of ends, one thing that I will say is, you know, regardless of what happens tonight, okay, I don't know what the fuck is going on. At least we know that at least good old nerds on the internet have rebuilt Hannah Montana Linux. So I guess before we end the video, let me know if you want to see some good old Hannah Montana analytics. Maybe I, maybe I might get a Miley Wiley's. Blow my brains out, dude. Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully things get better. Hopefully they do. But ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, whew, shit's wild, man. Shit is really wild. It really is. There is, for the first time in a long time, I've never really had a great way to like send off a video. Simply because the subject matter of what we're discussing is just insanity, okay? And really it's the first time where like I can't sit down and have that moment where I like, tell you guys, hey, this is how we get out. This is what we have to do. No, I really genuinely don't know. But I hope we get out of it. And I hope we all get out of it as a community together. Ladies and gentlemen, I am out.